Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of Money and Stuff. I am your host, Sam Rodriguez, certified financial planner. With me, as always, my co host, Conor Shepard.
Hello.
Conor, how's it going today, man?
It's going great.
That,
Weather's
that
great.
voice doesn't sound great. You gotta say it's going great.
Weather's amazing. Humidity's at the point where it feels like I'm wearing a jacket when I walk outside.
Yeah.
It is just great.
Yeah. Sort of take a bath as you step outside. Good gosh. All right, man. Well, we appreciate you guys listening in with us. I don't know what I'm saying, man. Let's jump right into it. What do we got? What do we got to talk about today, Connor?
Yeah, so I think it'd be a good idea. It seems like a lot more in the news. You're hearing about and reading about more and more mixed opinions about college education, of, getting an undergrad, bachelor's degree. A lot of debate on if it's really even worth it anymore. And I thought that'd be a good subject to talk about.
Yeah, good topic. So basically, is college still worth it? Like, is the cost still worth going to school,
Yeah,
going to college,
exactly.
university? Right. Yeah. Like, all right. Well, I mean, I can understand that, right? You're right. We are seeing that more and more in the news. I'm seeing, a lot of articles, right, talking about the high cost of college, and you're even seeing some really prominent business people,
Hmm.
question the necessity of college. So why don't we dive into some of that first? Let's dive into a little bit of why this is even coming up in the articles, why people are even talking about it.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff are you seeing, or what do you think? What do you think might be some reasons that people
I
are
mean,
starting to question whether or not it's worth it?
I think really the biggest, elephant in the room when it comes to the worth of college and whether the benefits outweigh the cost, it really number one thing is debt and student loans. I think the insanely increasing cost of tuition over
Yeah.
the past few decades combined with the increasingly massive amount of loans that are being given out to 18-year-olds with no credit history, with really no financial experience for the most part, and suddenly being saddled with 10, 50, $100,000 worth of student loan debt when they're leaving school. I think that really is one of the number one talking points when people debate whether college is still worth it.
Yeah, I can see that, right? Like, if you're going to come out of school, even if you are going to be earning more, if you've got this payment over the next 30 years that reduces your spendable income,
Hmm.
does it even matter that you're earning more if it's eaten up by the cost of repaying the loan?
Yeah. And in a broader sense, I think, exactly what you just said, it really impairs the financial decision making. It impairs, I think, the outlook on one's personal financial situation when you're out of school and knowing that you have this sort of 10, 20, 30-year debt cloud hanging over you. It's gonna have long-term effects on how you look at your financial spending, how you look at your finances in general. So I think, a lot of people, it's not just, oh, I'm coming out of school with this debt, I have to get it paid off, I'm not going to be able to spend as much as I normally would or save as much as I normally would. I think it bleeds into all the financial decisions they make. Is
Yeah, I
this
think you're
worth it?
right.
Is that worth it?
Yeah, I can see that. I hadn't really thought about that before, but you're right, right? So let's say from a getting an apartment standpoint, or getting,
Hmm.
what you can afford, where you can afford to live because you have this other payment you're making, or it can probably delay your ability to buy a house, right? Because your debt to income ratio is going to
Hmm.
be thrown off somewhat by the loan amount that you're having to pay back. Or if you are still able to buy a house, maybe reduce the value of the kind of house that you're looking for because you do have this payment. And if you default at all, like, let's say you have trouble and you have trouble paying this loan back, and it messes with your credit.
Hmm.
I mean, that can affect everything from your ability to rent, your ability to buy, and it could even affect your job prospects, right? Because a lot of jobs now check your credit and
Yeah.
credit's kind of messed up because you didn't pay your student loans, maybe that affects your ability to get the job that would allow you to pay your student loans back. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I would say that is definitely I don't want to really call it a drawback, but I think student loans and the repayment of student loans are a potential deterrent, I will say.
Hmm.
But I think they're more of a hurdle than a stop down,
Hmm.
right? And I do think that the benefit of college is still there. And I think the potential earnings increase, the potential to be able to find a job that you truly love, the benefits of college. I think college helps those things more than not going to college. However, you mentioned saddling someone with this debt who really has no financial experience whatsoever. I think
Hmm.
we are doing a very poor job of explaining to these 18-year-old kids what this is going to mean to them when they get out of school. So I don't know that it's necessarily like the stop down and hey, don't do it because you're going to end up with this debt. I think it's just helping them understand how are you going to handle this when you're
Yeah,
done, right?
definitely.
So it's more of a hurdle, because when we look at the statistics of the average income of someone with a bachelor's degree versus the average income of someone with a high school diploma over their lifetime, the person with a bachelor degree on average earns about $1 million more over
Yeah.
their working lifetime, right? $1 million more, $1 million is more than $100,000 student loan debt.
Yeah.
And I guess I should say $100,000 student loan debt is extremely high,
Yeah.
right? So let's say it's 20 or 30, even
I
then.
think the average is 33.
Yeah. Okay. So that's actually a really good stat to know. So if the average student loan debt is 33, but your average lifetime income is going to be $1 million more, man, that's a really good investment.
Hmm.
Like, if someone came to me and said, "Hey, give me $30,000 and I'll make sure you have $1 million more," I would say, yeah, that's a good return on my money.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely.
so maybe it's, I think there is an issue with the student loan debt. And you and I have talked offline about this a little bit, about how people don't look at college as an investment. Because when you think of it as an investment, you think of what am I giving up and what am I getting for what I give up?
Yeah.
And is there a more efficient way to get what I'm trying to get from this?
Hmm.
Right. So, you know, thinking about, well, why am I going to college?
Hmm.
You know, am
I
I
think.
going, am I going just because it's what we're supposed to do next? You know,
Hmm.
am I going to college because I'm just trying to earn more money? Right. Like you need someone who drills down a little bit more and says, no, let's decide what sort of path you want to go down in life and really, put the dollars and cents to it and say, how much is that path going to pay?
Yeah.
And for the pay you're going to receive, how much should you pay to be able to receive that later? And so instead of choosing the school based on your favorite football or basketball team,
Yeah.
how about we choose the school that best suits your situation and what you're trying to achieve?
Definitely. I think it really can be condensed down, and this is probably oversimplifying it, but that student loan debt and having it be such a major hindrance can be significantly mitigated by just preparation, understanding, by looking at your situation, and understanding why am I wanting to go to college, what am I going to college for, can really work to eliminate a lot of that struggle later on. And you touched on something earlier that I think is definitely a common trend that I see. I mean, when I was in high school, plenty of my friends, when we were seniors in high school, we looked at it. It was never a question of, are we going to go to school, or are we maybe going to take time off to figure out what we want to do? Are we going to go to a trade school and maybe look at a different career that doesn't necessarily require that undergraduate degree. It was never any of that. It was simply, cool, where am I going to go to school? Like, I'm going to college as soon as I graduate. It's a matter of where am I going to apply? Where am I going to get in? Cool. I mean, I think a lot of kids have this impression or this view of it being just the next obvious step without any sort of critical thinking towards, well, why am I wanting to do that? What am I getting from going to that school? What am I planning to do in terms of my academics and focus?
Like, how many kids end up with student loan debt and no degree?
Mm-hmm.
Because going to school was the next step and they weren't really ready to go to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they got to school, maybe they knocked out their basics and then it was time to decide what their major really was.
Yeah.
And, they still had no real idea.
Yeah. And I think a recent statistic that I've read, it's something like 1 out of every 3 students that entered school at the same time, 1 out of every 3 never finished.
Oh, wow.
So you have a major amount of people going to school, dropping out for a variety of reasons, and still having that student loan debt many times if they've had to take that on. There is nothing in as far as forgiveness of a loan if you don't graduate, if you don't complete school in X amount of time. I mean, that loan is there. You've gotten it. You have to pay it off. So
you're right in terms of like it's better to have a purpose when you go to school, right? I don't know if you experienced this when you were in school, but did you have any classes where there were older students, either whether they were late 20s, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever? I don't know about how it was for you with those students, but for me, those students were serious.
Oh yeah.
School, like they were there to get it done, right? And I feel like myself, I can tell you exactly where I was when I decided I was going to go to college. Right. So I've shared with you, I don't think I've shared with the audience, but I've shared with you that, I worked on a ranch when I was in high school. I grew up in a really small town and I started working on this ranch when I was 14. Right. And I'm only laughing and explaining that's a small town because only in a small town can you hire a 14-year-old to do this kind of work. Right.
Yep.
And that's could be a potentially lucrative career is to be a rancher, right? Like the career progression was, okay, Sam, like save up enough money to get a truck and then you can help us haul things around, save up enough money to get a trailer, then you can, even help us even more with that. Save up enough money to get a few head of cattle. You can put them on somebody's land, then save up enough money to get your own land and you'll start working your own ranch. Right. So it was definitely a career path, but it was auction day, and auction day is when you go and you buy cattle at the auction. And several other ranchers had brought the cattle to the ranch where I worked for I and the other few guys that worked for this ranch to work the cattle. And I remember we were doing it and I was looking over at these guys that own the ranches that had been doing this hard work their entire lives. And man, these guys were maybe in their 50s. But I remember I was looking at them and I was like, dude, their bodies look wrecked. I was like, you could tell they had, you could tell they had been putting in that hard manual labor. And it was, right? As a teenager, not that bad to work sun up to sundown, doing really hard things. I looked at the guys that were older than me, maybe in their early 20s, and they were all, they were cowboys, man. They were stout guys, what you imagine that you picture tough guys, right? But you don't realize what that does to your body over time.
Yeah.
And I remember, so I was 17 years old. So I'd been working there for a few years, saw these guys and thought to myself, I need to get an office job.
I want to sit down most of my work.
Yeah. I need to find something else to do because I want to be able to walk when I'm 50. Right.
Yeah.
So even for me, I had a little bit of a motivating factor when I got there, had an idea of what
Hmm.
I wanted and what I didn't want. I think the more people have that, the better it is. And I can tell you that that's a tough thing. Like I have a nephew right now. He graduated high school with his first 2 years of school done.
Hmm.
Right. And I was talking with him the other day because he hasn't enrolled in school yet. He's been out of school for a year now and he hasn't enrolled in college yet. And I'm asking him like, hey, what are you going to be doing? What are you doing? Like get in school. He's like, I'm 18. I have no idea what I want to do with the rest of my life. He's like, I have to go
Wow.
and pick a major,
Wow.
you know? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like you go straight from, you don't even get that 2 year buffer of just
Yeah.
going to school. You just, hey, show up, tell me what you want to do with the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Taking classes for it. Yeah, I would say that would lead to a pretty high, I don't want to say failure rate, but a pretty high rate of people just not finishing school,
Hmm.
you know?
Definitely. Well, and I know another thing that another statistic, I think it was the Federal Reserve Board that released it recently, but it's something like 41% of graduates work. Now, this is obviously talking about bachelor degrees, 4-year degrees. They work jobs that don't even require a degree. And even more interesting, 27%, only 27% of graduates work in the field that they graduated in. So you have just slightly over 1 in 4 graduates actually going into the field related to what they studied. And so,
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I think that well, obviously, I was gonna say I think that happens a lot, but obviously it happens a lot. You just gave me the statistic,
and
right? But
it's not to say that that is necessarily a bad thing. It just, to me, it emphasizes what you were saying. I don't think it is, not that it's not fair, but I think it's very common for, again, that mindset of this is just the logical next phase of my life, the next step. It's easy for people to do that, go to college. It is easy to make that decision of, okay, I'm going to go to school and say, I'm going to major in this, but realize a little later down the road, this actually isn't what I want to do, or this is not the type of career I expected. Like
sure.
maybe,
Well,
it's just not what it turned out to be.
you know, so I understand that, and I think that I mean it makes sense to me that that happens pretty often. As humans, we are constantly becoming ourselves more and more.
Hmm.
To think that we are completely ourselves at age 22 when we get out of school is a little bit crazy, right?
Hmm.
However, what I will say, is even though that almost quarter, a quarter of the people ended up working jobs that is in a field that they didn't even go to school for, those jobs probably still required a degree, right? So in that case, the degree, no matter what it
Still,
was in, was still worth it.
that's
When
a good point.
because especially when you look at the recovery from the Great Recession,
Hmm.
the 2008 recession, first of all, there were millions of jobs lost. And jobs, when we got back to even, right, when we got back to where the jobs that were lost were recreated, and then we got to the point of, well, what jobs have been created since we got back to even, right? So there were 11.6 million jobs created since that time. And out of 11.6 million jobs, 11.5 of those new jobs that were created went to people who had at least some college under their belt,
Yeah.
right? So I think jobs that are being created now mostly require that college degree or at least some level of college. And so I think from a standpoint of your ability to get a job, and not only your ability to get a job, but your ability to have choice about the
Hmm.
job that you receive
Yeah.
is enormous. Like for that's one big reason that I think college is worth it, right? Because there is no doubt that you can go get a job with a high school diploma and you can work your way up in the company that you work for,
Hmm.
right? However, you've put yourself in a position where that company is the company you work for,
Hmm.
right? That company is where you have built a reputation and where you will have your opportunity to advance.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that a degree does is it puts you in that position of choice, right? I talk about
Hmm.
putting yourself in a position of choice pretty often. And I think the degree, the college degree, puts you in a position that you don't paint yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
That if you take a job and you decide, you know what, this is not really what I wanted to do, it gives you more opportunity to actually be one of those one in every four people that says, I'm going to go do something that is not even related to something I studied.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's a really good point. I think it's easy to get bogged down seeing, varying statistics and just seeing a statistic or hearing about, the numbers of people being stuck in this or deciding on this. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think people do have to take into consideration the just birth of opportunity that does open up, regardless of the industry that you decide on or the industry related to your degree. That slip of paper saying you got your 4 years of education at this school opens many, many more doors
Right.
than
And
just
that,
by simply having it.
right. And that opportunity, all of those doors that open up, put you in a position where there are less things that you have to worry about. So for
Yeah.
example, a someone with a college degree is 24% more likely to be employed,
Hmm.
right? And when you look at when we do go through recessions, so whether you look at the Great Recession of 2008, or even if you look at the recession we went through because of the coronavirus pandemic,
Hmm.
when you look at the unemployment numbers, they're vastly different for people who have college degrees and people who don't have college degrees. So
Definitely.
and when unemployment peaked during the Great Recession, the unemployment rate was just below 16%
Hmm.
overall, right? But for college graduates, it was less than 7,
Yeah.
right? Which means, if 16% is what it was, and it's only 7 or less than 7 for college graduates, that means for people who didn't have college degrees, it was higher than 16%.
Yeah.
And then during this last bit that we saw during the pandemic in April of 2020, we had, I think, a 17% unemployment rate during that period
Hmm.
of time. And it was high for people with college degrees, but it was only around 9%.
Hmm.
Right. So I think that one of the big benefits of having those choices is if this job doesn't work out, I've got other choices available to me.
Hmm.
And not only that, I think it's less likely that you lose a job because I think that those jobs that require a college degree are less affected
Yeah.
by economic recessions,
Definitely.
right? Because a lot of those jobs that you work when you have a high school diploma and no college degree are largely affected by disposable income.
Hmm.
And when disposable income comes down, those jobs go away.
Yeah.
And the less that your job is dependent on Americans' disposable income, the less likely it is that you'll be unemployed.
Definitely. Well, and just to add on to that, I think in addition to just that overall higher job security in terms of people with college degrees versus not, I know also graduates are 47% more likely to have health insurance through their job. And overall, college graduates have a lower poverty rate. So I think, it definitely compounds with that as far as providing not just the job security, but I kind of want to say life security, but I don't even know if that's a
Yeah.
thing.
So some benefits that we don't normally think about when it comes to jobs, right? So you're right.
And
Jobs that
especially things that during a recession will be exponentially more important. or more, at the forefront of your mind when something like that is happening.
Yeah. So health insurance is an insecurity if you don't have it, right?
Hmm.
Because if you get sick or something happens, especially if it happens when you when you're not earning as much money as you'd like to, a hospital bill or a doctor bill, it can send people's finances spiraling.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so that actually leads me to another benefit that I think isn't really discussed. And that is the sort of, I guess what I should say, not sort of, but that leads me to the health benefit and the
Hmm.
mental health benefit. Right.
Hmm.
So an amazing thing that I saw, a statistic that I guess I should say, a surprising statistic that I saw,
Hmm.
but that made sense to me after I thought about it, is that college graduates on average live 7 years longer than people without college degrees, right? And so it's like, well, why is that? And I think it comes down to a few different things. Number one is they're more likely to have health insurance. And
Yeah.
if they have health insurance, they're more likely to feel comfortable going to the doctor, getting regular checkups, staying on top of
Hmm.
their health, right? Two, I think about the stresses.
Hmm.
One of the things that we know about stress is having constant sources of stress in our lives shortens
Hmm.
our lifespan.
Definitely.
So if some of those stresses can be alleviated by additional income,
Yeah.
job security, health insurance, then it makes sense that your overall mental and physical health would be better, leading to a longer lifespan.
Yeah. I think a large part of it, maybe I don't know how large, but I think a part of it too, just tying back to, your experience on the ranch. And, when you look at the industries that are made up primarily of jobs that don't require a college degree, you have a lot of manual labor jobs. You have a lot of jobs that are arguably more physically taxing compared to jobs that probably would require a college degree sitting in the office, like you said. So I think that probably is a big contributor as well, is having a lot of jobs that you don't need the degree for that end up really forcing you to almost spend your body as sort of your capital.
Right, right. So yeah, that's a good way to put it, right? So what is the trade-off, right? When you have the college degree, like your degree is your leverage to earn more income, right? When you don't have that degree, with some jobs, your leverage or your what you give up is your physical ability. What you
Hmm.
have to bring to the table is your physical ability. And
Hmm.
just like I was talking about with that ranch, right? Like you can wear out,
Hmm.
right? You're more likely to get hurt, if you're exerting yourself. So, yeah, I think, also side benefits, some things that I also found interesting is that number one, people with college degrees are 2 times more likely to volunteer with their free time. And then number two, they're 3.5 times more likely to give to charities.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I hadn't honestly, I hadn't thought that much into why. I just thought it was an interesting point. But, you know, for purposes of this discussion, I would think, the obvious answer is, well, you have more money, so you can give to charity more, right?
Hmm.
I think also you maybe can volunteer more because I think more or jobs that require a college degree are probably more likely set hour jobs, 9 to 5.
Hmm.
So you know what your schedule is all the time. So you feel like you
Hmm.
can dedicate time to something that you're passionate about and volunteer for it. As far as being more charitable, I think some of those things, giving back, whether it's volunteering or being charitable, to me, a lot of that goes back to feeling secure,
Hmm.
feeling happy, right? Like I'll feel like I can give of my time. I'll feel like I can give some money because I know next week and next month are secure,
Hmm.
right? And if I'm feeling good about my own personal situation, I'm probably feeling more inclined to help someone else feel good about theirs or make a difference in some other way. So I guess in terms of the big question, is college still worth it? I really do think it is.
Hmm.
If all you do is look at it statistically and say, yeah, college graduates on average earn 32,000 more than a year than people who don't have college degrees. That
Hmm.
statistic alone says, yes, it's still worth it, right?
Yeah,
And we got to think too, if we think there's a lot of people out there that have college degrees that aren't earning more than someone who doesn't have a college degree, right? Then how much better would it be if when people went to college, they had a better idea of what they were going to do when they finished,
definitely.
if they
I
knew what field they were going to go into.
definitely. I think, a way of looking at it is college is and college can absolutely be an excellent opportunity, an excellent resource when utilized properly, when looked at, prepared for, and assessed as far as why am I doing this? What am I going for versus what is it going to cost me to do so? I think, one of the most important things, you need to be purposeful in your decision to go to school and why you're choosing to go to school.
Yeah, you have to think of school as an investment. And it
Hmm.
is an investment because you're spending money to do it, whether it's the money that you have now or the money that you're borrowing to make it happen.
Hmm.
So again, when you evaluate an investment, you evaluate, what am I possibly going to receive from this?
Hmm.
What am I going to have to give to receive that? And what is the most efficient way for me to put this money to work so that I can attain that end result? I think if we
Hmm.
thought about things that way, people's financial college experience would be much better. And I'll
Definitely.
say this about college that I think is not talked about enough is just the experience of college. And when I say that, I don't mean like the experience of having fun.
Animal House, old school,
Yeah,
all
total
that.
parties. I'm not talking about that, right? Like that kind of experience is not for everybody, right? But what I mean is the workforce, your working life, your social life, all of these things, these are all very social interactions. And one of the things that college does is it allows you to make connections,
Absolutely.
right? And especially if you're coming from a family that doesn't have connections,
Yeah.
this is a way where when everybody gets to school, everybody's sort of on an equal playing field,
Yeah.
right? Like the college doesn't really care that much about who you are, right?
Yeah.
You're all there. You're all trying to figure things out. And it's much easier to make connections with people because you don't have the sort of
Network.
social, yeah. Well, you don't have the social cliques that you had when you were in high school or in your hometown.
Yeah.
It's your chance to intermingle with people that you've never met before, that are not from the area you're from, that have
Definitely.
completely different experiences than you have. Now, if you come from an area where your family was already pretty well connected, maybe you don't need that as much.
Yeah.
But, and that's one of the things that I think is tough for someone who is maybe a first time college attendee, say they're the first
First
generation to
generation.
go to school,
Yeah.
right? Maybe they come from a place where, the people that they're connected to aren't really the people that are going to help them get ahead in the job market. If you go to community college and you take your classes online, or you treat college as a way to get your degree and that's it, and you
Hmm.
don't get to make those connections, the benefit of college may not be as great as if you had gone to school somewhere where
Hmm.
you were forced to make those connections because you were all on campus at the same time. You were all having these shared experiences and you formed these connections with people that otherwise you never would have.
Yeah. Definitely. I think, and even taking a step beyond like the people that you start to meet and get to know in an immediate friend group or even secondary friend group, one of the biggest, and I don't think anybody can deny this, one of the biggest benefits of college is, of a college degree is the alumni network of your school. Networking more and more is becoming the primary way people are getting jobs, the way people are sort of getting a foot in the door with new jobs, especially when they're graduating. And alumni networks are invaluable when it comes to basically having an automatic connection with so many people that attended whatever school you went to, that you are able to obviously you probably haven't met the majority of these people, if any of them, but having that preset connection of I'm an alumni as well from that school, this school, automatically that is a bridge that you have with this person, that person, all the people in that, web.
Yeah, and in this age, we live in a fantastic information age, right? Like we can access information, we have a better ability to apply for jobs and know what jobs are out there more than we ever have in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
The issue with that is so does everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when that happens, maybe it used to be, hey, this job is open and there's a handful of people that apply for it. I can sort through, find the people that we really like. Well, now you have hundreds, if not thousands, of people apply for these jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to make you stand out more than anyone else that's in that set
Yeah.
of resumes, right?
Yeah.
Having someone who can vouch for you, having someone that says, hey, I know a young man who just graduated from such and such. I think they're really sharp. I think you should probably talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Goes a very, very long way when your hiring manager has a stack of hundreds of resumes that they got to pull through. They are
Absolutely.
desperate for any way to differentiate one from the other. And so
Yeah,
that networking helps tremendously, right? So
definitely.
I think that's a benefit that people often overlook.
Or undervalue for
Yeah, or
sure.
undervalue about going to school.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess end result, man, is yeah, it is worth it. Like just statistically, from an income standpoint, it's still worth it to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Again, but to make the most of it, you need to treat it as an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And we should say, we are in no way saying that college is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? There's obviously lots of very good paying jobs that do not require college.
Plenty of successful entrepreneurs with, that either didn't start school or didn't finish.
A lot of
Um,
successful trades, right?
mhm,
There's so many
absolutely.
things that you can do to earn income these days that I don't think the question should be, is college worth it? Right? Like, that's not really what I'm trying to say. It's like, is college still worth it? Yeah, college is still worth it, but it's not the only way,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But if what you want to do with your life requires a college degree, then yes, it's definitely worth it,
Yeah.
right? But if what you're going to end up doing with your life does not require a college degree, then
Hmm.
no, it's not,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And if you treated it like an investment, you would know that what you wanted to do with your life didn't require a college degree.
Definitely. I think, it really just comes down to emphasizing, like you would any investment decision you're going to make, you want to weigh the scales of, well, look at the situation. Why am I doing this? What will I get from this? And, you know, stack that against, okay, well, now what is it going to cost me? Whether that is purely financially or in general, well, if I don't know what I want to do, the cost can be more than financial. It can be years of your time spent that you ended up doing something you just didn't have any interest in or had planned to pursue career wise. So I think it's really important to just make sure you look at the situation as subjectively as you can and assess it.
Yeah. So I think what we should do, not today, we've rambled plenty for everybody who's hung on and continues to listen. But I think that we should probably talk about how to make a good investment decision when it comes to college.
Yeah.
Right. How to evaluate it, how to think about it, and how to know that you're making the best decision for you or for your kids to help them go to school.
Definitely.
Right? And to get the most that they can out of their college experience and from the degree that they receive from school. So
yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think that'll be an upcoming topic for sure.
Definitely.
All right. Well, I appreciate anybody who stuck around for that.
Yeah. For the two people still around, y'all are troopers.
That's right. So if you're wondering if college is worth it, whether you're thinking about going to school or whether it's worth it for your kids to go to school, definitely is.
It depends.
Yeah, but it depends, right? It depends on whether or not you're making a smart investment decision when you're deciding what school and for what you are going to school for. So that wraps up episode 6. Again, if there's any topics that you guys have that you want us to touch on, you can email me directly, S as in Sam, Rodriguez, RODRIGUEZ @foundationwealthpartners.com. And we're willing to talk about anything, I think, as you can tell. So, all right. Next time, guys. Thanks a lot.
Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advice offered through Foundation Wealth Partners, a DBA of Advisor Resource Council, a registered investment advisor. Foundation Wealth Partners and Advisor Resource Council are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.